Good evening, everybody. This panel on the left and the right knows me for a long period of time. Must promise you one thing, they are the people who walk the talk. So get ready for some exciting things here that we'll talk today. To start with a quick introduction with the panelists here, I've got Chirag on the right. He's been my friend for many, many years, more than a decade. And he's an expert when it comes to NFTs and DeFis and so many things. Otherwise, also in Web3. We've got here Vatsal. And then I've got Anirudh, Rohit, Srishti, Sagar, and my friend here, Aman. The session today is about the NFTs with respect to creating economic opportunities and the utility for the creators' economy. And for the non-starters, it's about the forward-looking brands and the creators. So both sides of the puzzle we're going to take over today with this esteemed panel here. How many of you really know about NFTs? Raise the hand. Okay, many of you. What we'll do is we'll like to make it very, very interactive. Any one of you, the gentleman here, you said NFTs. Can you just quickly say, what is NFT for you?
Non-fungible token for me is something which, the fact we're talking about virtualized products now. So there's a distinct product, right? It can't be replicated. So you're using the blockchain technology to make sure that it's going to be a unique product, which once sold, it cannot be replicated, non-fungible.
Wonderful. Incredible. You're so right. So how many of you have ever tried Bonvita? Okay, most of us, we've always had Bonvita. If the Bonvita bottle was signed by Virat Kohli, and I come back and say, I'll give you 300 rupees, mere ko wapas de do. Will you give it? No, because it's collectible. It's not unique, and that's only one. So whenever something is unique and you have the entitlement to go figure out the price, and you want to also trade it on some crypto exchange, etc., equates to that sort of a non-fungibility of the item. And the valuation of NFTs has been generally, influenced by the individual demand of those assets, of course, with respect to the trading volumes. Secondary sales market plays a very big role. At the same time, there is an absence of the ability to trade, exchange them. Generally in the currency, the currency that we use, the fiat, though many of the NFTs are being traded on fiat too nowadays, but not a majority of that. NFTs, therefore, offer a suspect value offering. And it's for creators, both from a brand perspective or individually. This has been an extremely sort of tricky situation for NFT creators now in the last few years. So the first track is let's demystify the NFTs. Have the brands benefited from NFT sales or the auctions? I start with Chirag.
So thanks Rahul, first and foremost, for the very warm introduction.
You're welcome.
So we have a very interesting topic on hand. NFTs as a topic generally inflicts extreme conflicting opinions, right? And hence this panel is a true reflection of typically how people conceive and perceive NFTs. Now, NFTs is a technology, in my view, holds great promise, right? However, and I've been in this space for a while now, there could potentially be a thesis that we as a technology versus use case and adoption, there has been a lag. We have been lagging behind between these two, right? Mm-hmm. One of the complaints or one of the criticism we always face with respect to the blockchain crypto industry is that, hey, show us the real world use case, right? And NFT for a change promise that, this is going to impact the creator economy, impact the way companies market their products, and I think this is really a conversation that allows us to take a step back and say, hey, you know what, has that really happened? Or at least has that happened to the extreme or to the extent that we expected to happen circa 2023? Now, and I know you asked a question, what is NFTs and what do you think about NFTs? And you asked a gentleman over there, what is NFT? And we received a very technical response, right? trust me, for a large majority of the people, NFT is a monkey JPEG, right? That's the first thing that comes to your mind, right? Is it or is it not? Right? That's the first thing that comes to your mind, right? And NFTs wave one was all about digital art, right? This is amazing, this is beautiful. You know, somebody sold millions of dollars worth of digital art and people are like, wow, we should also make one. Cut to now, there's generative AI, right? Computer can do all of that for you, like a press of a button. So this entire space is now facing an existential crisis to an extent, right? That's one. Two, the most important use case of NFTs that was touted or that was expected was in the space of Web3 gaming, right? Interoperability of assets, right? That was expected to change the way gaming works, right? Where are we right now on that, right? And I know there's a panel on gaming right after this, so maybe you can ask Manish and team with respect to what's going on there, but certainly not to the level that we expected a few years back, right? Interoperability is still not happening thanks to partnership and ecosystem reasons, maybe a little bit of technical reasons, right? So there's still a lot of work to be done before we get to the utopia as was expected a few years back. And finally, to conclude and to the point that you raised, enterprise use case, enterprise adoption of Web3 or any technology for that matter, which pretty much is my favorite topic as well, right? And whenever we talk about enterprise use cases, everybody jumps up and says, but look at what Starbucks has done. Look at what Nike has done, right? Take out the top 5 guys, top 10 guys, and then tell me really what has happened, right? Have you interacted with an enterprise in India and consumed an NFT product which has improved your experience of that brand, right? Right. The proof of the concept is in you using it, right? How many in this room would have actually used an NFT to experience or consume a brand in a more effective manner as of today, right? So again, on that count also, I think adoption versus hype has fallen behind, right? So, as I said, I believe there's a huge promise that technology offers, but I also believe that in terms of adoption, in terms of real life use cases, we still have a lot of work as an industry to do. And I think the concluding remark from the last panel was that technology will not change for people, right? People will not change for technology. Technology will have to change for people, right? And I think this is a thesis which applies with this conversation as well.
Incredible. So he thinks it's a suspect, but you know, he's saying, okay, fine, we'll figure it out over a period of time. This group on the left thinks opposite, right? Okay, so Srishti, your turn to counter. What's happening with NFTs here?
So, first of all, thank you, and I'm really glad to be a part of this panel, and great, I think Chirag has put a good start to it. Lots of things I think I wanted to stop there and start, but then the debate has to go in a structure. But what I'll start with first is that, you know, when we talk about NFT, and I think Chirag has also put context to that, what we need to understand that this is just basically a way that you can digitally represent and own something and also monetize. So it's enabling the internet of value. So, and for intangible assets also, something that has a perceived value, like a Bonvita signed by Virat Kohli or something like that. But while we can say that, you know, it started with collectibles being there, CryptoPunks being there, that I think I would also like to perceive one thing that, yes, that's a fact that there is a lot of gap with respect to the education, whether it is for the users or even the enterprises, that what is the actual applicability of the technology itself, whether they talk about blockchain or NFT as a use case, how it can be implemented either as a utility or as a loyalty mechanism or as a way to communicate with your users. Was there a way possible before that you can, without any channel partners, interact with your end users? I mean, we've had discussions with supply chain organizations where beyond a point, even the, you know, after the distributor, the retailer, you do not have access to the end users. This is a way where you can directly interact with your end users. You can have ways to gain analytics of data as well as aggregate that and do any kind of thing that you can think of. Maybe, you know, create a way of interacting with them, maybe helping them help you in your product development, whichever is your sector, whether it's a media company or it's a telecom company. So that's one aspect of it, which I would like to say. And second is again the fact that we need to really understand that NFT can be, collectible is one part of it, but definitely there is much more to that. And there is an ownership which will be given to the asset, and it's going to be decentralized, and you can even monetize that.
Perfect,
Yeah.
perfect. So Chirag thinks that there's still a use case that gets implemented on the ground, and that if there is an opportunity for me to gauge, okay, this many things have happened with my launch of NFTs with respect to my sales, etc. But Srishti thinks that there is analytics which are available. She thinks that there is a huge opportunity with respect to engaging the existing customers and the multiple types of NFTs also. We'll come to the multiple types of NFTs. Now there's okay, why not? Amin, please.
All right, so I'm sitting here after losing 6 digits in NFT, but I'm very much bullish on that. So I think NFT is the best creation so far, specifically from the Web3 side of things. Let me just tell you a few instances. While I agree that there are brands which have adopted it, there are price, but actually price is something which actually develops the interest in people, right? Agar aaj Bitcoin $30,000 nahi hota, nobody would have been sitting in this room, right? Had it been like only $30, everyone would have been just like probably not be interested in that. So price develop the interest develop different ideas which actually comes in the market. So NFTs are nothing but you're investing in the religion, right? And this religion is of a culture. And this culture is dominated by the community. And this community is the one which is owned by the brands, right? So if the community is owned by the brands and the brands can actually leverage the power of community, can actually help creating new kind of products, it is more beneficial for the brands in terms of top line and the bottom line. Let me just tell you a few instances. NFTs have actually allowed people sitting in tier 3 to start monetizing their talent and art to the global audience. How many of you have imagined that somebody would have been sitting in Rishikesh painting a portrait and then probably selling it on the streets of Rishikesh where only 20, 30 people are interested paying 100 rupees, whereas the NFTs can actually be sold for hundreds of thousands of dollars. If somebody is appreciating the art, why not let that art have a price? How many of you must be questioning that, what if MF Hussain have actually done the painting which you probably would see right behind Amitabh Bachchan is of probably 30, 40 crores. And the best part about NFTs right now is it actually lets you create a fractionalization, which is not possible so far. And since it sits on blockchain, you have a beauty that these transactions are being recorded in the real time. You can't really delete it. You have the actual visibility of who are the stakeholders, who are the owners. And it actually opens up the new avenues for the brands. Why can't you become probably the first holder of the few musicians' albums, and then you can actually become a part of their fan community? Why can't you really get some kind of a benefit if you actually become the first subscriber of Tanmay Bhatt YouTube channel? So this is where the NFTs actually allow the multiple facets to open up. And I think, and I strongly disagree that there have been brands which have use case. Internet have come up so early. Computer have came up in 1991, probably would have come to our homes in 2000. Everything takes time in terms of understanding the technology, and it takes time in having the massive adoption as well.
Wonderful. Aman is a great speaker. I've been always impressed by him. But yeah, so why don't you take up? Vassal is my dear friend, lawyer, a serial entrepreneur, and he's worked with brands all over. Which brand did you make $1 million last time?
No,
With NFTs?
no, I actually lost some money on NFTs. Okay. Yeah, but have made in other ways, so, all that. Yeah, so, just wanted to, since I'm sort of for the motion here, although I'm conflicted in some ways because I also happen to have majority ownership in a company which, does a lot of work in the NFT space. So I'm clarifying.
That's the reason why he knows the fail-safe measures.
Yeah.
Okay,
so I think a few things that I think are very relevant, which I need to emphasize from a sort of legal regulatory point of view, is that a lot of cases have happened where there's been an NFT sale or a trade, but the copyright was not actually licensed. We saw that with Meta Birkins, I tried to use the Hermes logo. ultimately Hermes did succeed in the New York court for the reason that they didn't take a proper consent. Patents on software is not possible. So that leaves the question, what is an NFT? If it's blockchain technology, is it a software? There can only be two classifications. It's either art or it's software. If it's software, you can't have a patent on an NFT. So the question is, how do you make royalties? It's easy to say that, when I was in Dubai last, there were at least 4 projects that pitched to me. They were film NFT, so they were crowdfunding movies. I asked them the same question because there was a case where, Quentin Tarantino's rights were being used for an NFT project, and then again they were sued because they didn't take the permissions. So what needs to be very clear is that the avatars you make, the assets you make, it has to come with license rights. Jack Dorsey's tweet, which was all over the media, ultimately it only gave the NFT buyer a right to use, display, etc. Commercial exploitation, ownership of the content or the ownership of the actual work does not transfer ipso facto, right? So from that angle, I think there's been a really, less awareness being shared. Typically when you go to OpenSea, Rarible, Magic Eden, wherever you buy your stuff, you just ignore those license terms, right? No one actually sees it. So that's one thing where I feel that, better information and knowledge needs to be given so that there are less breaches and violations of law and less cases are filed which restrict that utilization. That's just something I wanted to throw into this panel because I think what Aman was saying, I wanted to just since this is a debate, I'm interjecting and doing whatever I can to make it a debate.
Once again,
Perfect.
I'd like to add to that point, Vatsal, but as you said that there have been issues with the transfer of the IP. So in few cases, there have been, the IP has been transferred successfully, and in those cases, you have seen that particular project flourish massively, right? So it's not exactly like that is the issue when we are talking about, it's whether the company or the project is transferring the IP or not, that comes into the question. And as long as we are talking on NFT, see, I believe NFT is a technology, as the gentleman mentioned, and even as my fellow colleague said, right? It is not exactly the monkey picture that we see, right? With NFT, it opens up a lot of different kinds of business models that a brands can, come up with. Previously, it used to be either I can go on a subscription model, you pick up any company, Netflix, Hotstar, or any of the company, or either it's the advertisement model where the customer is I'll show the ads, I'll make the revenue. With NFT, you can bring in a new kind of business model that can be enabled, with the entire blockchain, not just the NFTs, with Web3 as whole. And that's where I think brands can benefit, where our primary question was, have the brands been benefiting or not? So if the brands use that particular part well enough, so there have been fractional ownership marketplace in real estate, right? The music IP, as we were mentioning with Vatsal, the music IP ownership. So those are the different use cases that have been coming up. And in that front, the brands who are using it perfectly, be it Nike, as you said. So it's about how we use it. The technology is there. You use it in a right way. It will open up some new avenues.
Perfect. Perfect.
Rahul, just like a follow-up point to what Sagar just mentioned, right? And you talked about Nike, and I already gave a disclaimer that you can't take Nike and Starbucks as an example because everybody just does that, right? But why, if that is the case, not more brands have been able to use it more effectively?
I want to say the same thing.
Taco Bell, Coachella, Mercedes,
No, but these are all,
Lamborghini, bring it any S&P 500 company, they have an exposure. Recently I went to Barclays, they're creating their virtual branch in the Metaverse, which will allow the access to the people to go in with the NFTs. Pick it, any S&P 500 company, they have some kind of an exposure or already started developing the NFT side of things because they are not looking for generation to cater between 40s and 50s. For them, the next generation, which is the Gen Z and millennials, are the ones which are more going to be interacting with that.
Also, when you ask this kind of question, it's like why every company is not Reliance in the stock markets, right? So when we talk about investment perspective,
I'm getting the feeling that by the end of this conversation, there'll be a few friendships that have ended. Right? So,
Really, when is
But I think we should let Anirudh speak on the licensing part, then I will add a line on
I'm
it.
not going to licensing just yet. I think just want to actually keep the conversation to brands, which is what we started with. But I also want to start by saying something in support of Chirag. You know, I'm kind of changing ship here, but you know, I am not fully. I mean, I think this is a maturing industry. It is not a mature industry. And we have been in a hype cycle for a while. And in any hype cycle like this, which exists for and continues and amplifies for so long, unfortunately, you know, the kind of questions you're asking will be asked and they're warranted, right? But I don't think that we should let the hype or the price of my NFT on OpenSea overshadow the technological shift that this represents, right? And that's the point that I want to really stick to. On brands as well, I think the problem is that most brands, because it is a hype, most brands see this as an opportunity, as a one-off marketing opportunity to kind of, you know, just ride this wave. And those are not great examples, right? But if you look at brands, unfortunately, Nike, I mean, they are some of the stellar examples, right? But if you look at brands that have successfully managed to create narratives, build stories, build communities, the kind of engagement that we're seeing, and there's academic research to say that while these communities, NFT-based communities may be smaller, but the levels of engagement we are seeing are extraordinarily high, right? So I think brands, when you know, look at these opportunities and build on them meaningfully, I think there's a lot being done very successfully.
Also, sorry,
Just
just to sort of add to, I mean, again, Anirudh does allude to what I was about to say, that we usually take examples of Tiffany's, we usually take examples of Louis Vuitton. They've done a recent NFT collection actually for, no, Porsche is an example. So I'm saying, look, let's look at this room, right? How many people here own a Tiffany necklace? Like, when you have to speak to the audience, and India is an economy which typically is what we are calling the Bharat economy. So from a you know, a relevance perspective, right? Where are you benefiting? So if I am a trader and I can potentially flip the NFT, which is the majority reason why people, why the NFT market started. So look, DeFi, NFT all came later, right? The genesis was Bitcoin, but everything else that's happened was part of the hype cycle. And the liquidity that was provided to these NFTs is where the liquidity pools have dried up, because that was what was driving those NFTs up. It wasn't really community. But I would make an exception as well. I'll also go on that side of the table for a bit and say that there are projects which have established, and these projects are including Lazy Lions, you have CryptoPunks, you have Bored Apes, Mutant Apes. These are projects where you've seen stickiness, because even when the hype cycle was ending, the owners did not just sell their NFTs. They didn't sort of liquidate it, and that's what's kept the price going. And you know, for someone who actually spent months on understanding the underlying economics of the NFT market, my main conclusion was that majority of these projects were highly centralized. So it's basically the project owner using the same ways as any other DEX, having market making folks, having algo trading guys, keeping the price up till the time it needs, and then once they've made their money, they don't care. Liquidity dries up, price drops down. So if we're looking from a brand point of view, then what you need to look at is loyalty-based NFTs. Those, I think, certain brands have only been able to crack. You know, I have personally interacted with over 20, 30 Indian companies who've asked me for advice from the standpoint of one of my portfolio companies, and you know, ultimately I haven't seen them move beyond the first conversation. And I think it's just a one-time thing. You launch an NFT, and then what? How do you keep your users engaged? And I think that's where we need to focus the debate.
I've got one more track. So, Rohit, you come from a gaming studio side of business.
Yeah, create economy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Did you make the last million? When was last week?
Sorry?
When did you make your last 1 million using by NFTs?
Yeah. So, see, actually, I wanted to add on to the licensing part, what we were talking about. So, I majorly come from a creator economy space, moreover in the gaming space, and I know most of y'all are aware that gaming as an entertainment platform is rapidly growing, and one of the major advantages is that the tech adopters in this space are huge, right? They are already using tech to play and to consume content. So ideally, they would be one of the first options or the early options when it comes to newer technologies. So a couple of things that I have been noticing in the past few years, one of them being that, we have had inquiries from brands and from vendors and from individuals where they have leveraged the idea that people do not understand NFTs yet. They reach out to creators, they tell them that, hey, what if I pay you a monthly stipend? Okay, I'll pay you like 30,000 a month, 50,000 a month or whatsoever. You essentially give your content rights to us and we will make NFT pieces out of it, whether it's video content piece, whether it's your image, whether it's you doing something unusual on your live stream or whatsoever. And they, have ended up manipulating the creators in such a way that you are getting fixed money every month. Like, what's better than that, right? And, fortunately, unfortunately, a lot of these creators, majority pool comes from your tier 2, tier 3 part of India, who would probably opt for this and, not have enough knowledge about how, who holds the license or who holds the rights, right? So that is one side, and another side it's being manipulated is also that they are being asked to push NFTs as influencers in order to push the price or in order to push the value of an NFT. So in the creator space, so all this was happening probably about 2 years ago, and people started losing their rights on anything and everything that they're making, which eventually it started reaching a point that even when brands were genuinely reaching out to push NFTs, promote NFTs, creators started taking a step back saying that, hey, this space is very tricky or this space is not doing justice to us. And that kind of started leading us to taking a step back from NFTs.
Great. For some, it is about brands understanding or brands getting the opportunity to capture people's content and do certain, whatever, here and there stuff, and not getting to having the creators themselves monetize it. For some, it is about opportunity of having a community in place, and like Aman mentioned that if there is a community, if there is a community, then Anirudh mentioned about there are communities that you're able to monetize it. So with how you want to monetize your community with respect to NFTs, my second track and the last track after which I would like to take a few questions also is these people believe there is a community and that brands can benefit with it. So Srishti, start with you. What do you think about community creation, brand, and how can brands or creators leverage it?
Sure. So I'll like to add 2 points before I talk about brands creating community. So one part, I think what I agree is that, we are at a hype cycle currently where there is a lot of adoption and awareness that needs to be done. And I'd like to compare this to cloud computing as a technology also. It's been over 10 years that the technology has been in place, but banks are still not able to leverage that. They are still working on data centers and not able to leverage that completely. So I think we are at a stage, yes, we do not need to go and talk to our clients and explain that blockchain is not Bitcoin. And blockchain tech, NFTs are different, but between brands, what I'd like to say here is that there are some early adopters, like we're talking about Nike and all the big brands, because they do understand, they believe, they think decades ahead Like you talk about JP Morgan, right? JP Morgan has its own digital asset platform. They are doing tokenization, NFT is a very small part of it. They are hosting their own nodes. DBS is hosting their own nodes, blockchain nodes as a service, and they're doing all the work. So they think 4 to 5 decades ahead, they know that this technology is going to be there. So there's one part of it that, brands not able to even convince their management that, okay, this is actually a technology that we need to go ahead, and these are real challenges and bottlenecks that even people in the enterprises are facing. So that's one aspect of it. And second, what I think I would agree to what Vatsal is taking is about how do we actually revolutionize this, that people are able to use it, like we are talking about, the daily users can use this, is when this is actually going to become mobile native. And the user experience part of it is again is at a transient right now, where if people in this space, they'll be hearing about account abstraction happening and how interoperability, different wallets is actually creating some kind of nuisance to the users while they are actually using this technology, and there is already work being done in that respect, and it's not far ahead. There are big payment giants who are actually building NFT platforms in India only on permissioned ledgers, where it's not going to be far away that on your mobile, while you're using UPI, you'll be able to create your own NFT, mint your own NFT, and maybe transfer it to your friend, have your own exchange, like whenever you're going to we do these exchanges, right? When we go to vacations, we settle the expenses. You can do that with NFTs, and all that kind of innovation is not far away. Yes, I would not say it's the next year, but these are things that are happening. And to come to your point about communities are not built in a day. It builds with the conviction. It builds with how the users are going to start using it. Influencers will not build the community. I think users will build the community, and there's a lot of work in that momentum happening, and it's going to take some time.
Yeah.
Okay, on the community side of things, how many of you are Harry Potter fans? Or how many of you are like Super Mario Bros fans, right? Both these inventories are in itself billions of dollars, right? But what happens if you have to create a comic book of Harry Potter, right? You would not be able to recognize in that particular community of Harry Potter or probably Super Mario Bros, right? But with NFTs, you can actually monetize the fandom. It actually lets you to create the derivatives of the work, and these derivatives of the work can be actually monetized with the Harry Potter core community, which is globally present. And this allows the community to start adopting this new phenomena, to start creating the multiple talent. There has been a talk on like creating a decentralized storytelling. I definitely foresee in 10 years down the lane, there will be Dharma production, or there will be all the production house which will be owned by all of us, not by the intermediaries who takes most of the money and the profit, by creating super interesting films which are being watched by all of us. But why not this Dharma production is being owned by the community, where the storytelling is completely decentralized. You can get the instant feedback from the community, and the community is already there, right? You have to just engage, probably bring in more kind of a masala to keep them alive. Not just talk about the price action, which has been happening in some of the communities, but most of them are trying to actually create some derivatives of the work. So this is a point to make.
Just a small question to the crowd here.
I'd like to add to this.
Yes, Sagar,
like
after you finish, then please.
So we are speaking about the communities, like everyone spoke that there are communities, but on the like audience perspective, there comes a point wherein how do we build those communities, right? How do brands build those communities? That's the very genuine thing that comes into
My question itself will help you. How many people or anyone from a brand here in the crowd, anybody thinks want to create a community to elevate their sales? Anybody? Nobody?
Rrahul, the proof of the pudding is in the eating. There are enough companies who have 500 million users, 400 million. We keep throwing these numbers, right? We look at Paytm, right? In the simplest terms, an easy use case of NFTs is certificates. Just get certificates on chain, create provenance. I've personally spoken to universities. The challenge is they want it for free. How do you build a business around it? The gas fee, who pays gas fee? No one talks about gas fee, right? Gas fee is gone to gas. So who pays the gas?
So whatever work these guys are doing is all for free.
So business
You
models.
guys are working for free.
No. So Rrahul, business models have been built and currently are built only on investment money. This is fund money that is being burned to create a business model, just like any other, enterprise tech sector.
Well said.
The revenue model comes once there is mainstream adoption. Now, in this, the challenge is coming in as to how do you make a revenue case. What Aman, you mentioned about film DAOs, who is really benefiting? It will be the person acting in the movie, it will be the person funding the movie, but in any movie, there's a huge production cost that someone is paying. So legally, they have the right to exploit it commercially. That's why they acquire the IP rights. In NFTs, firstly, we should stop using the word NFT, make it simpler. If you look at loyalty, reward, credit points, they're like NFTs. Why can't I call them an NFT? And these are the questions that the common person is asking, right? One of the potential people I was talking to, again, enterprise level, they said, why do I need a certificate on chain when I have DigiLocker? So I think where the reason is, if there are no brands in the room, why? We should ask that. And which brands in India who already have a use case and have not done it, right? A loyalty, I'll give you an example. I can have a current avatar, last example is an anecdote. And we've had discussions with a unicorn company on this. Have an avatar and keep building a universe around that avatar based on what you're buying, right? That adds to the metadata. That metadata becomes valuable. That metadata can then be monetized, just like any other data is monetized. You're really being able to identify the user's choices. That is where you can sell a picture to the brand. A brand will only invest in something if they make at least 10 to 100x on it. And I think it's the revenue model, just like most NFT revenue models, even in GameFi, that have crashed. We used to use the word there was this game, right, which everybody was using. That was in Philippines. There were poor people who lost money. Some of them have gone bankrupt, right? Because the tokenomics was not making sense. So whether you look at NFTs from a GameFi perspective, play to earn, you look at brands, you look at asset class, and everything has to be dissected.
There is a Chirag for you. Just in continue, you work very closely with a Swiss-based DeFi consulting firm, and what do you think? Do brands give money to people who want to talk about NFTs? Yes or no? And if no or little, over to you.
I think the larger conversation has to be around the creator economy, right? And creator economy is become pretty much a buzzword right now, right? Especially in the Web3 circles, because apparently Web3 is going to do something amazing for the creator community. But you have to remember the fact that creator community has existed way before blockchain and crypto, right? Just take the example of something that all of us use right now in this room, Spotify. What Spotify did was it created a community of creators who were not able to monetize their music. And they said that you create your music, put it on my platform. If it sells, you get a cut of it, right? So creator economy has existed for a while now, right? And there are enough and more Web2 models which have found a way to monetize and benefit those creators, right? And going back to Aman's point, right? The challenge and the example that he gave with respect to the film DAO, right? The challenge has been that the value transfer has not been effective, right? The creators have still not been able to create enough value out of what they published to be able to sustain themselves or create wealth and value. And that has been the argument with respect to the creator community. Now, the entire thesis of NFTs as a tool for for a creator community was that there will be more transparent value transfer. The middleman, as the word that was used, will get eliminated, and hence my dollar will directly go in the pocket of a creator whose product or service I'm consuming, right? If that happens, that changes the business model completely, right? And if that happens, that's great, because Gen Z or whatever alphabet we are at right now, right? I think there's this huge tendency for them to be entrepreneurs, solo entrepreneurs, which is essentially what creator community is about, right? So it gives them wings. Will that happen? Will that not happen? Maybe that's a conversation for another day, right? But that's really where we are as far as the industry is concerned.
Great. What also happened before we start the session, I generally try to bring all the panelists in one room, talk to them, sit down, set up the agenda, sort of prepare ourselves. Sethi was talking to me about a success story. Over to you.
So I'd like to share about a few of the use cases we had done with enterprises. Particularly for NFTs. So with one of the leading beverage companies, Now we've actually done two use cases with them. One, we started with a sustainability initiative where they wanted to track the bottles from a recycling perspective. They already had created an app which is like a Recycle Me app, and they wanted people to actually, they get information of where the bottle is, track the bottles, and we don't realize that, tracking of these bottles actually has a lot of monetary value for the beverage companies. So what we did was we created an NFT initiative coming from the sustainability perspective, that through a QR code you scan the bottle, and for the user the incentive is simple, that there is a reward mechanism and a loyalty mechanism associated for the user. But for the enterprise as such, the enterprise is able to track the bottle, is able to get information about the user, the habits, and also the demographics, the geography. So this was one use case which I feel actually had an inherent value to the enterprises as well as the user base, because the user is actually earning loyalty rewards and getting benefits from being a loyal customer.
Incredible. Sagar.
I'd like to add to the similar kind of example. How many of you know Ray-Ban as a brand? Raise your hands. So most of people know Ray-Ban as a brand, right? So with Ray-Ban, we have seen that there have been a lot of knockoffs coming in to the market, not just Ray-Ban, but with any of the companies that are into luxury goods or something of that kind. So when we are talking about key NFTs, on the certification part, Vatsal said that certification, why should it be on blockchain? Why is it necessary? So when we talk about these particular brands, luxury brands, let us assume what if you have, like there have been systems being built, but still we are assuming, or see, there is a luxury bag or something kind of, and an NFT is issued as a proof of originality or proof of authenticity for that particular bag. Now a super knockoff guy or some dealer in China, he can replicate the exact bag, but on chain he won't be able to replicate the exact NFT which is issued by Louis Vuitton or issued by Ray-Ban or any of that particular company. So that's where I think those particular use cases, or we say that, as I previously said again, it's upon the business models that we create using the technology that would be the ideal scenario.
So basically authenticity wise you can utilize this. Essentially is covering the types of NFTs. Rather than giving definitions, this panel is walking the talk, talking the walk.
I think we will move from user generated content to user generated products. There will be companies which will start releasing the blank canvas so that all the community members can decide. If it's a month of June, let's not focus on different gender. Let's actually create products for LGBT. If it's a Halloween week, let's create some kind of a marketing campaign which is driven by the community. And the community who would suggest the better ideas get some kind of royalties on top of it. So I think this phase of user-generated products and user-generated campaigns, user-generated services is actually coming with the help of NFTs. That's where we lead it to.
Incredible.
Rahul, I just wanted to just segue into
These
a little.
people are talking too much success stories. All big brands again. Same Nike, same
I think
big,
it's more prospective what they're saying, and I completely resonate. Like a prospect, these are all prospect cases, right? We're referring to ideas mostly and potential products in the pipeline, right? But where I do see, and I'm going to sort of change my hat a little bit, where I do see value is real world use cases. I think it's, carbon credits is a great example, supply chain, real estate, financial products, right? Fractionalizing even private equity funds, fractionalizing limited partnership pools. We are seeing success stories there of the underlying technology. And I think that's where now, for whatever reason, it's taken a little while, but enterprises are more keen, brands are more keen on that technology, provided, one, it doesn't come at a huge premium, two, they're able to monetize that. So I think if we can crack the monetization piece, I think whether Chirag or me or Rohit on this side is just for today, but we're all trying to work in the ecosystem to get brands to see that. But to do that, you have to have a clear revenue case. But that doesn't take away, like Shrishti said, the genuine use cases which are building on traceability, provenance, authenticity. That is the only thing. And an NFT should be defined as a simple thing. It's just a digital asset representation.
And payments.
Yeah.
Perfect.
We should refer it as a token rather than the NFT.
Refer it as a credit. It's a credit in your bank. It's like a pepper fry credit, right? And you can use it for other products. It's the same. If the farther we remove the definition from the user, and the technology from the user, it gets harder. But
I think most of the businesses are being abusively looked at, like the monetization from the financial part. This is a new wave of monetization from an emotional part as well, right? If you are definitely involved with the community, we have a big example in the country, Patanjali. He started the community of yoga aspirants, and then emotionally and spiritually and through the health benefits monetized with respect to the products he has launched. Right? So it is also the emotional and the motivational benefit that I have A.R. Rahman new albums pass, from which maybe potentially later down 3 years down the lane, if he's creating some kind of a club, I'm a part of it. Right?
but now
we all show off as a part of press club in India, what is the monetization benefit which you and I get apart from that networking.
But the moment I'm giving you an example, I'm just being devil's advocate. With generative AI, let's say 2 years down the line, I can anyways make a A.R. Rahman song, right? Hear me out.
But the fandom will always remain, right?
Yeah, so fandom will remain for...
After Shah Rukh Khan dies, can you actually create that and then still have that community involved and buying that content?
Yeah, so let's say I join a Discord group. That's what usually DAOs are being controlled by. Discord groups are very chaotic. I'm sure we both spend time on it. How do you really decision make? It's most DAOs, and there was a research report, I'm happy to share it with you, where the underlying research pinned it down that 90% of DAOs are centralized. Now, and any NFT project can only succeed if it is centralized, because that's the only way the price of the NFT can stay up. You have to control the supply, and that is the underlying market dynamic, whether it's whatever markets you want to play in. We all know that. And I think that's why I was saying that the underlying technology can be used for genuine real-world asset classes.
No, so there's a difference here. What you're talking about, a community and a prize, then again you're going to the collectibles part of it. That's kind of very different from the fact that you're trying to build a community. Community will be built where, like he said about Patanjali, there's a real value that is being given to the end user, right? With respect to yoga, mental health, and then the products are actually facilitating on that. When you actually solve a real pain point or a problem, that's when the actual community will come into place. Not so, and that's why I'm kind of differing from what you're saying, because it's kind of mixing two things. So when you create these communities with an inherent value,
Sides are true friends.
and just one last thing I'd like to say about
You
the
have to take a
technology
few
in
questions,
itself is that, of course, you mentioned one thing that, this can be done before blockchain also. So blockchain is not a silver lining, right? The actual problem that it solved was the payment being sent over the internet without an intermediary in a fraction of few seconds with no delays. And that's how this technology started working on. And these are all, different wings that have actually come out from that. And so, yeah.
I would like to
Perfect.
just add
I think one line, just one line.
Basically, when we are thinking about NFTs,
Yeah.
everyone, be it that side or this side or that side as well, it boils down to the first statement that we had, that NFTs are not just the artwork that we should be thinking about, and
Exactly.
the other things that we discussed.
Exactly. So with this, we already have times up. I'm getting this, 6 hand signs from the other side. 2 questions. Okay, ma'am, I have so many questions. Ma'am, your question first. But we're happy to take questions. The panel is right here, so happy to take your questions offline. Yeah.
Okay. So,
You want to address your question
Hi.
too?
yes, to the panel entirely,
Okay.
whoever wants to answer. So I'm Radhika. I work with the Chain Project. I'm a Web3 lawyer. My question is, why aren't we talking about ticketing NFTs? It meets all the criteria. You're catering to the creator economy, you're catering to the consumer market, and to the fan communities. And there's a revenue generation model as well. So what are your thoughts on that? Why aren't we pushing that more?
Can I just answer this with a personal anecdote? So one of my friends runs music festivals, and I suggested use of NFTs for tickets. He said that, on the existing platforms, which is Insider, and there's one more called something Box, they have partnerships with brands. They get, and they actually can get brands to sponsor that event as well. Whereas the companies that are doing NFT ticketing don't have those budgets. So distribution is the problem. If Patanjali wants to today launch NFTs, yes, they will succeed, but they're not doing it. You have to have distribution. The product is sexy, great, everything. but the distribution is not there. So Insider, if I have to list an event, I will go to Insider. That's the challenge. But yes,
Perfect.
it's a perfect use case.
Great.
There are companies doing it.
I think we can take
for-
second question. So you can take the second question. Yeah, the last question.
Hi, my name's Aditya and I'm a Web3 brand strategist. My question is to all the panelists. So I saw good cases, from both sides in terms of loyalty and community as well, and it's a really good conversation to have. But, seeing the element around the implementation of NFTs from a lot of brands, and like Porsche was not a really good case, there are a lot of niche brands that have done well, but for the masses it still comes as a question. So the question is NFTs really required as a jargon in this conversation? Because to the masses, they do care or they don't care, that's the big question.
Okay, so Chirag, you take the question.
So I think you are spot on when you say that, what is this fuss about NFTs, right? And that's pretty much what every industry expert is also saying, that, the day technology becomes seamless, right? And that's what Starbucks is trying to do. I don't want you to realize that you're buying an NFT or you're receiving an NFT for loyalty. All I want you to do is experience the power that it enables you in terms of engaging with the brand, right? So that is the last frontier, right? As when Web3, blockchain, crypto, tokens, NFTs, whatever you call it, right, reach that stage is really when adoption will kick in. And again, I go back to the statement that we had in the last conversation, that technology has to adopt to people, right? People will not adopt to technology.
Great.
So,
I think.
Perfect. One more question. So we've got live. We're doing live. So Vandana is here. Vandana, any question? Any one question for Anirudh?
Yes.
Whatever questions comes, Anirudh is expert to answer.
Yeah. So we have been
Last quick
receiving
question.
quite a few questions on the LinkedIn Live. This event is being live streamed on Rrahul Sethi's LinkedIn profile. Around 200, 300 people have joined already, last I checked.
Question.
The question is, I'm going to read one out of all. That is, what strategies can brands adopt to ensure the long-term value and utility of their NFT offerings?
Okay, 1 minute for you, Anirudh.
Yeah, I think we already touched upon that, right? That brands typically are, because there has been this continuing hype, the wave, a lot of brands are looking at this as a one-off marketing opportunity to ride the wave. And that, to me, is not the right branding strategy. Create narratives, create communities. That's the way I think.
I think loyalty,
Perfect.
fan engagement, to answer to this question, loyalty, fan engagement, new product ideas, customer suggestion, instant suggestion from the community as well. So I think to package it in a manner, it's like ultimately user engagement. Is that what I would answer?
Okay, if this side were to say, they'll say IP protection, take care of it. The other side would say, okay, whether, their brand will take over the creator's content. So you got to be, I think, you got to be speaking to these experts here who will be available, of course, after this session as well. But thank you very much, everybody, for the questions, interaction. Thank you. Thank you, panelists. Thank you very much.